Challenging conversations can be daunting, demoralizing, and sometimes just downright dreadful. But there's no way to avoid them forever and at the same time feel fulfilled, respected, and truly have your needs heard and met. In this video, we'll look at 4 major game changers to help you prepare for and handle your next challenging conversation with confidence, empathy, and grace. Hi, I'm Stephanie, a communication and charisma expert. Welcome to my channel where I teach you how to communicate and captivate with confidence, class, and charm. When navigating a challenging conversation, it's a balancing act. The first thing to do before you even prepare for or enter into a challenging conversation is to shift your internal mindset, perspective, and attitude towards the other person. A trick that I started using years ago is to assume that the other person is doing the best they can with the resources and information they have available to them in that moment. Now, this may seem a little far-fetched, especially when you think of your seemingly tyrannical boss or your partner who seems to magically not hear you when you ask them to clean up the dirty dishes or not leave them around the house for the billionth time. Or when that passive-aggressive person in your life seems to channel all of their pent-up frustration in your direction. But this internal shift, it's not about them. It's for you. So let's zoom out a little bit. Maybe your boss is facing pressure from upper management and has been told that there are budget cuts and they can't afford to give anyone a raise. Maybe your partner has forgotten to put the dishes into the dishwasher several times this week because they're preoccupied planning your child's upcoming birthday party. And maybe that passive-aggressive person in your life never learned how to deal with unpleasant emotions and process them correctly, so they're trying to make themselves feel better the only way they can. None of us are perfect 100% of the time. We all have bad days or things that aren't as high on our list of priorities as they are for other people, or even situations in which our hands are tied and we have to make tough calls that will rub some people the wrong way. So let's return to the example of your tyrannical boss. Let's say you have a meeting with them to find out why you were passed over for a promotion that you were sure you'd get. Rather than going into it thinking, "Ugh, my boss is such a jerk and they totally have it out for me," take a step back and try to assume that your boss is doing the best they can with the information and resources they have available to them. Think about what is the problem from my perspective and what is the problem from my boss's perspective. If you don't know what your boss's perspective is, that's fine. Acknowledge that and ask them. Now, let's go a little deeper into this idea of someone doing their best. Consider the best days you have. You're well rested, you feel good in your body, things seem to be flowing, everything's working the way it's supposed to. Generally, the stars just align and you're having a great day. Your best on those days is going to look much different than on the days where you overslept, spilled your coffee, got stuck in traffic, and had a fight with your partner. On those sorts of days, maybe your best just looks like making it through the day. It's a sliding scale. Your best doesn't look the same every day, and neither does anyone else's. So when you think about it this way, that person is doing their best and making the best decisions they can with the information and resources available to them in that moment. All of this said, none of this is an excuse for bad or inappropriate behavior, especially when it's ongoing. It's absolutely not. But it is helpful to remember in situations with people who you do think they have good intentions, they're just maybe misguided or misplaced intentions, that they're doing the best they can, and it's almost never a personal attack on you. When you keep this in mind going into a tough conversation, it makes it a lot easier to stay calm and rational. It makes the conversation less scary or threatening or unpredictable. It helps you to see the other person in all their humanity. And seeing the other person in this way helps to let go of the them versus me mentality so you can really listen and be heard. Bearing all this in mind, let's get into some practical ways that you can navigate tough conversations and situations with grace. You know the old trope where someone says, "What did I say to upset you?" And the other person says, "It's not what you said, it's how you said it." The second thing to keep in mind is with difficult conversations, neutrality is your friend. Your tone of voice transmits more than you think, and it can help or hurt you when having a challenging conversation. Do your best to speak in an even tone of voice without inflecting accusations, hurt, anger, or annoyance into your tone. The minute people hear any of those things in your tone of voice, they'll immediately go on the defensive, which makes it harder to find a solution that works for both of you because you both feel that it's you versus me and not let's work together to find something that works for both of us. Keeping your tone of voice neutral and at the lower end of your vocal register will help inflect calm into the situation, even if you feel uncomfortable, nervous, tense, or angry. Simply say what you need to say in a calm, neutral tone of voice, and then wait for their response. When listening to another person, be very aware of your facial expressions as well. Often in a challenging conversation or an argument, when someone says something that doesn't feel fair to us, our faces say it all. Furrowed brow or an indignant eyebrow raise, an irritated eye roll, or a sarcastic smirk. All of these strip you of your neutrality and put the other person on defense, again, making it very hard to find common ground and solution because it perpetuates that you versus me dynamic. Instead, train your voice and your face to stay neutral when listening and really listen to what the other person is saying. The third thing that will help enormously in difficult conversations is choosing your words wisely. Express your feelings and perspectives using I statements and the passive voice to avoid sounding accusatory. For example, say, "I feel stressed and frustrated because the house is a mess," instead of, "You always leave your dishes around and it drives me crazy." Stating how you feel is a personal thing. It's something you can take ownership of and let the other person know what's going on for you without putting them on defense. Remember, if you're going into the conversation assuming that the other person is doing the best they can with the resources and information they have available, then it makes it easier to remain neutral and choose your words wisely. Under the umbrella of choosing your words wisely is the concept of responding instead of reacting. Reactions are instinctual and responses are intellectual. Reacting will not get you positive results. It will only escalate the situation and make a more emotionally charged, less productive atmosphere. On the other hand, taking a moment to gather yourself and respond will help keep things neutral, allowing you to think rationally and find common ground and solutions. With this, as tempting and instinctual as it may feel, jumping in and cutting off the other person because they've said something that feels unfair or untrue is never helpful. Simply make a mental note to come back and address that calmly when it's your turn to speak. When you think the other person has finished speaking, an easy trick is to count to 20 in your head while nodding slowly before responding. If they have something else to say, this will give them the time and space to say it. And if they don't, it gives you some time to gather your thoughts before responding so that you can calm your emotions and respond constructively. Plus, the nodding gesture will make them feel heard even if you don't actually agree with what they've said, and making the other person feel heard in a difficult conversation or an argument will work wonders on de-escalating the situation. Remaining thoughtfully silent for a moment is also a way of cueing high levels of confidence and competence to the other person. It's a way of commanding respect. Remember, confidence is quiet, insecurities are loud. This is also a great way to overcome a knee-jerk reaction if you tend to have people-pleasing tendencies of saying yes to whatever they've said just to keep the peace. The fourth thing is what I call the cherries on top of all of the things we've talked about in this video. The previous tips will help you get well on your way, but these next tips will help take you from standard communicator to really excellent persuasive communicator, helping you tip these challenging conversations in the direction that you want them to go. Before I get into these, if you haven't already done so, I want to invite you to hit the like and subscribe button to let me know you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful. Now let's get into it. Prepare in advance if you can. If you have time to prepare in advance, like for a work meeting or a long time coming conversation with a relative, this can help you stay calm in the moment and have a backup plan if your plan A doesn't work out. For example, if you're going into a meeting with your boss to try and negotiate a promotion or a raise, roughly plan out a few options that you believe would work for both parties, both you and your boss and the company. Don't try to script it, because when the other person then inevitably doesn't follow the script, you'll be lost or start to fumble. It's best to just plan out a few different scenarios, plan A, B, and C, for example, that would work for you and that you believe would work for the other person. Be clear and then go into the meeting or the conversation, keeping in mind all the points we've already talked about in this video. Ask for what you do want, not what you don't want. For example, instead of telling your partner, "I want you to stop leaving the dirty dishes all over the house," try, "It would really help me feel loved, respected, appreciated," whatever it would make you feel, if you would put the dishes in the dishwasher when you've finished using them. This change actually helps them understand the deeper issue, because as we know, it's never actually about the dirty dishes. It's about the feeling that results inside of you when you see the dirty dishes there, when you've asked your partner to take care of it. If you're with a partner that cares about you, they want you to be happy, and chances are they just don't know that leaving their dirty dishes around the house makes you feel unloved or disrespected, because they don't associate that with disrespect or not loving you in their mind, and communicating this to them will help the situation enormously. Another example could be in a work situation where someone isn't communicating clear or realistic deadlines. Rather than saying, "Your team needs to stop asking for things last minute," a much more productive request might be, "We all want this project to be done to the highest quality possible." And to do that, we need to set realistic deadlines and milestones. What can we do to ensure that that happens moving forward? This response takes away the us versus them dynamic and puts you all on the same team trying to accomplish the same goal. The last cherry on top works really well for situations where you're dealing with someone who constantly interrupts you or steamrolls the conversation. I call these the interruption preventers. So, first one is to open your mouth slightly, just like this. And it seems a little funny, it may feel weird, but we instinctively know as human beings that when someone opens their mouth, they have something to say and we should stop. So if you're in the middle of a conversation and someone interrupts you, just leave your mouth open just a tiny bit, and no need for any other facial expression, just open your mouth and they'll get the hint. Second, you can just hold up your hand. When the other person won't let you get a word in and you have something to say, similar to when you would raise your hand in school to get your teacher's attention, you can start with just a little lift, and then if they don't stop talking, you can just raise it a bit more until they get the hint. Usually, this doesn't take much more than a little like this. You can even combine the open mouth with the hands. So something like will work really well in person or in meetings. Third, give them a preview of your main ideas before you jump in. When it's your turn to speak, you can tell them you have 3 main ideas, for example, and they can count on your fingers as you move through your points. That way, they'll know they have to wait until the end to jump in, because a lot of times some people think you've finished when you haven't even gotten through all of your points. This way, by counting up your main ideas, they understand that you haven't finished yet and they have to wait. If they don't, you can return to the hand raise or the open mouth to show them that you weren't done speaking. So, to recap, the best way to get the results that you want in challenging or difficult conversations are: 1, Zoom out and assume the person does not have malicious intent, that they're doing the best they can with the resources and information they have available to them at that moment. 2, stay neutral in both your tone of voice and your facial expressions. This will help keep the other person from getting defensive and keep the situation from escalating. 3rd, listen with the intention of understanding, not with the intention of responding. Then, once you've given yourself a moment to gather your thoughts, form your response thoughtfully and deliver it in a neutral manner. 4, use your body language and previewing your points to minimize interruptions so you can stay unruffled and communicate clearly. I'd love to hear what your biggest takeaway was from this video in the comments section. And please let me know if you use these tips in your next challenging conversation and they help to flip the script. Until next time, bye!